It's me, a skeleton of Liam from Pushquare who went and did a dead. And joining me today, he's just floated through the wall of my office. Spectre, who are you coming into my room and making all of my upholstery smell like a ghost?
Oh, it's me, the spirit that used to be Aaron. And I'm sorry if I leave any ectoplasm on your sofa, Liam. Oh.
Aaron, we're here again. We have fun here, don't we? That was a good intro. Aaron, we're here today for another little chat about our favourite scary moments on PlayStation. Now, Aaron, it's Halloween month. We wanted to talk about some spooky things. How are you feeling about our scary chat this morning?
Well, I'm quite scared about it because we don't know what either person is going to say. No doubt that all of the moments actually that we'll talk about will be rather spine chilling, I'm sure. But there's a lot of choices to pick from, a lot of obvious choices. I'm just hoping that neither of us have doubled up on our scary moments and that we've got a nice gamut there.
One thing we did say before we had this chat is that they didn't necessarily have to be moments from scary games. They can be moments from any other type of game that just gave us a bit of a spook.
In a way, doesn't that make the moment more scary because you're not expecting it? So
exactly.
I know with one
absolutely.
of your games, it's going to be definitely a case of that.
I think there's something to be said about how much a game can catch you off guard when it's not within the horror genre at all. And there's a certain creator that I think I'm going to touch on a little bit more in my picks who does this extremely well. So, Aaron, do you want to start us off with your first scary moment?
Yes, I will. I will indeed. Particularly because I think it was recently the 7th anniversary of this particularly scary game. And it is none other than Alien Isolation, released in 2014.
Ooh, good pick.
Yes, on PlayStation 4. And it might be an obvious one, as I was kind of alluding to maybe earlier, but it is, of course, like the first time you encounter the xenomorph. So you've played Alien Isolation, right, Liam? Or at least some of it?
I have. I've played some of it. I actually find it too scary, so I didn't get that far in.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't blame you there. And I know a lot of people have a problem with the game's length because it can stretch up to like 15 hours, and ramping up and stretching out the tension for all that time is sure to, get anyone's heart pumping. But I absolutely loved it. Loved James Cameron's sequel, loved Ridley Scott's original. That's, of course, the movie that this game is based on. But so leading up to the moment, it doesn't happen as early on as you think. I think there's like a good almost an hour before you even encounter the first xenomorph. And unlike the majority of the game where the AI is, unpredictable and unscripted and just roaming autonomously, hence why it's so scary and you're always on edge, the first time you encounter it is telegraphed, but because of that fact, it enabled Creative Assembly to, sort of really set the tone for the remaining 12, 13 hours of the game. And so it happens pretty traditionally, I would say. You're roaming the Sevastopol station with all the darkly lit atmosphere. You've got your scanner beeping away when all of a sudden the lights go red. You hear a massive clanging, and then from out of nowhere, you just hear the xenomorph before you see it. You hear the slippery sliminess of the tongue, and then it's complemented with the tail slipping by underneath the desk that you're cowering under. And I still have flashbacks to that now. Really scary stuff. And I think you would have gotten that far.
Yeah, and I agree. That was the moment for me where I was like, okay, they've understood the creature, which I think most games based on Alien never managed to do. Obviously, Aliens Colonial Marines was always like touted as a disastrous game, but I think even all of the games before that, even though some of them are really good, the Aliens trilogy on PS1 was basically just Doom with aliens. They always kind of depicted the alien as a throwaway enemy that you could easily defeat, but Alien Isolation really did sell this idea of the alien as just this unstoppable force of evil and death, and you really just can't face this creature. You have to hide. And in that moment you described, it really did just hit home of, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to just, gun this down easily. This is going to be a persistent threat to me throughout this game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you're dead on with it's almost like, speaking of James Cameron, obviously there's a tie there. Like, they almost treat the xenomorph as a Terminator, where it's unstoppable, it's always going to come at you. And it's not until, I want to say at least the halfway point, that you're even equipped with something that still won't kill it, but will fend it off. And that is, of course, the flamethrower weapon. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can't be the only person out there that's gutted that Alien Isolation 2 doesn't look like it's on the cards. But having said that,
Yeah.
I think the original game is so perfect as it is, even at the end. And if you think contending with a single xenomorph is bad enough in the game, just wait until you play later on. That's all I'll say. But yeah, definitely one of the
Really?
scariest moments for me. Oh yeah, I think enough time has passed now, but there's at least 2 or 3 that you're placed in a room with at one point, and it obviously you're fully powered up, but that is how Creative Assembly so excellently ramp up the tension by, just chucking a couple more in there.
Oh, well, that was a very, very good first choice. So my first choice
hit me.
So it feels like it's such an easy option, and I'm going to be talking about PT, a demo that is no longer available.
A playable teaser, as it were.
Oh, a playable teaser for the now cancelled, sadly, Silent Hills, which was a project that Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, Aaron's doing the sign of the cross there for viewers at home, and agreed. I'm so good we never got to see that final vision. But the thing about PT, and I'm going to kind of, maybe this has informed my choice quite a lot, is because it's this demo that's no longer available, that unless you have it installed on your PlayStation 4, you cannot access it anymore. Coupled with the way it was released, how we didn't know what it was discovered by the community through play as to what this project even was. PT has taken on such a mythic quality, it almost feels like a modern day campfire story, as it were, like a haunted, cursed object. And for me, the thing that always comes to mind when I think about PT, and there are so many moments of genuine horror in that game. I could have just spoke about the first time you open the door and you just look at that looping corridor and you hear the crackle of the radio and the rain against the windows. Just the atmosphere in that game itself is give me goosebumps just thinking about it, because I am not good with horror. But there is a moment in PT where if you're in the main hall by the front door, the telephone and the radio, if you look up, you can see the top floor landing of the house.
I know exactly what you're going to say. I know what's coming.
You can see Lisa, who is the ghost that attacks you and follows you through this looping corridor. She's just standing watching you.
Ugh.
Oh my God, it's giving me chills just thinking about it. But that is such a horrific thing to put in the game. You can miss it. You can miss it so easily. I imagine some people listening to this right now who've played PT might not have even realized there was an upstairs that you can see, because it's obscured by the player's view just naturally due to being in first person. But I just think it kind of epitomizes that entire experience of just slow burning horror, just horrific imagery, and just the feeling of being watched by this awful, other, supernatural force. Yeah, PT, awful game. I only ever played it the once at a house party. Sometimes I think, like, if Silent Hills came out, maybe it would have actually lessened the impact PT had, because we don't know what that actual game was going to look like. And there is a chance that game could have been bad, it could have been fantastic. We have no idea what the finished product of Silent Hills would have been. But as it stands, PT is just, for me, one of the greatest games ever. It's just really scary.
It is bloody scary. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of just how simple it is, because PT, it does a lot with very little, like literally and both figuratively. Like, yeah, it's a looping corridor. You have to run it multiple times in order to see the ending. I don't think it's ever actually quite been revealed how you see the ending. There's a lot of luck, a lot of odd moves, and speaking into the microphone of your DualShock 4 potentially required in order to finish it. And obviously it gets even scarier. I think you're absolutely right. It's got this ghost-like quality where you can only play it if indeed you were one of the lucky few to download it while it was available. But I've always got fond memories of watching that conference. Can't remember which one it was, seeing the teaser for that and not thinking very much, and waking up that morning in my bed, I think it was like 6-7 o'clock, headphones on, and playing it like by myself for a good hour. And it was genuinely one of the most horrific experiences of my life. Opening that door and hearing the baby cry, that fetus, just absolutely chilling. And
awful.
Obviously, it's definitely, and thank you for bringing it up, Liam, and making it a choice, because we would have definitely have been, I don't know, like strung up had we not mentioned PT in this video. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that agree with us. But And don't take this the wrong way, PT is so effective, but it's all because Kojima goes there. Like, I don't think anything that PT is doing is particularly innovative, aside from those little details, like you said. It's literally just a ghost following you around the corridor. But in terms of how macabre and actually horrifying and haunting it is, like Kojima, like, I'm absolutely sure there would have been meetings where the devs are stood around and they're going, guys, this might be too far. Like, because we know people can, like, what horrifying stuff and gruesome detail developers can put into games. I mean, it was a big topic of discussion when Mortal Kombat 11 was released, just in terms of like the pure viscera. And, you know, I can think of far worse things I've seen in films than in PT. But PT is so good because it reaches a certain point, all that it needs to, and handles them so effectively. Like you said, just by setting a mood and atmosphere. Like when you say a really lanky, dribbly ghost lady in a nightdress following you around a corridor.
Dribbly is such a good explanation.
Right? Because there's never not any pus coming out of that woman's mouth, God bless her. But in just in terms of how it was handled and presented, it's definitely not just one of the most scariest moments on PlayStation, but scariest moments ever, I would wager.
Agreed.
What a game. I guess that leads me on to my next choice. Bit of a, not a left turn, maybe a right turn. So Dead Space. Love the first game. First time you encounter the necromorphs. Really good moment. I've gone for something a bit off kilter. So Dead Space 2, they obviously did a lot more to humanize Isaac as a character. You wake up, stripped of your suit, and there's all these moments where you're strapped into the straitjacket and you have to wander around, you're unable to attack. I actually thought this moment happened during that opening sequence, but researching it for this video, I actually found out it happened later on, and I don't know if you know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say.
You know what I'm going to say. Aye.
There it is.
The bit where Isaac needs to enter the brain scan machine and the needle going into his eye. Oh, for anybody who has a fear of sharp objects going into very sensitive parts of their body, this no doubt would have it's definitely, if not one of the scariest, definitely one of the most squeamish moments on PlayStation, just all of gaming, in fact. And so the reason he goes into the machine is because, he's suffering from amnesia. He's got to find a way to get a certain amount of his memories back. And apparently, for some reason, in this future set universe, the only way you can do that is by jabbing a needle in your eye. And the folks over at Visceral Games, they're definitely living up to their name, because not only do you have a close-up view of the needle going into Isaac's eye, as well as a monitor nearby that you can see his pupil. I actually forgot this until I looked it up, but you actually have to guide the needle yourself into the eye. Like, I thought your purpose was to I thought it was just a general QTE, how I remembered it in my memory banks. But no, it's all about guiding it to Isaac's pupil. Otherwise, let's say Isaac will be suffering from a very sore headache indeed. So, definitely one of the scariest moments for me.
I'm going to have to find that clip and put it into the video. I'm going to have to rewatch that. Dead Space 2 is a great game. Just to say that straight off the off. The original Dead Space is one of my all-time favorite games, and I do love the sequel as well. It's something really to be said about how in that game you are literally severing the limbs off creatures. It's so gory and, like you say, visceral, blood and guts everywhere. And yet that moment is so realistic to an extent. I think it kind of brings the horror home in a way that, severing the limbs off an enemy, it's not really something that we could experience in real life, and, it's fantastical to an extent. But, needles in eyes is a thing that happens in real life. And I think there's just really something about, like, that hits harder than any of the gore or any of the exaggerated qualities of that game. And the fact that they made it interactive is cruel. And whoever's responsible for that, I want to have a word with them, because it makes me cringe every time I think about it.
I know people that have had, unfortunately, problems with their eyes, or have needed them looked at by an eye doctor, and had to have had their eyes stabbed, for the lack of a better term. And the reason I shudder and cringe so much is precisely because of Dead Space 2. I probably wouldn't think it was so bad, but because I've gone through playing that moment in this game, it just makes things worse. God forbid I ever need to get it done. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, thank you, Dead Space, for giving us both a phobia.
Well, anyway, enough talk about Dead Space. I want to know what Liam's second scariest moment on PlayStation is. Hit me with it.
So my next choice is a little bit different. It's actually not from a horror game. It's from an action game. It's from Metal Gear Solid 2 that was released on the PlayStation 2. One of
Kojima fanboy over here, if ever I've heard one.
two Kojima games. Yeah, I didn't even intend that to be the case. And I was umming and ahhing between this and something else that maybe we'll get to in a bit. But for me, the scariest moment in Metal Gear Solid 2 is one that comes out of absolutely nowhere. It's a total left field moment. And it's towards the end of the game. Spoilers for a game that's 20 years old this year. You are, as playing as Raiden, the main character, you are about to basically enter the final portion of the game when this character, Colonel Campbell, who you've been speaking to for the entirety of the story of Metal Gear Solid 2, suddenly starts to corrupt and glitch. And basically the game reveals to you that Campbell has been an AI construct this entire time. And the way the game starts to present this to you is Campbell starts to say very strange things. I need scissors. I don't know if you remember that very famous quote that he says. But the game, this entire sequence takes place when you're trapped in basically like a metal tube, and the music is very haunting, it's very ethereal. The codec and these conversations with Campbell have been a sense of comfort to Raiden throughout the entire game. It's how he's been able to speak to his wife and have just some of the worst conversations with another human being in any video game ever. You get to talk to the Colonel and other people, including Snake from the original game. And in this moment, the game effectively takes away that sense of safety from you. And it starts to manipulate the image of Campbell in a way that the game hasn't actually let on that it can do effectively. So Campbell starts to change position. You start to see the side of his head, the back of his head. He becomes a skull, his eyes disappear. The middle of the codec becomes a woman sunbathing. And all of this is happening and you have no idea what's going on. And effectively the game pulls a bait and switch and just says, you can't trust even the UI of the game itself. Nothing at this point in the story is safe and everything is falling apart. I first played that game, well, it came out 20 years ago. I probably played that game when I was 10 or 11. And it absolutely scared the hell out of me because I'd never seen that kind of manipulation to the mechanics and the framing of a game before. To this day, I still think that interaction is one of the best in all of video games. Completely just pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of spiritual successor to the Psycho Mantis sequence from the first Metal Gear game, isn't it? But
yes,
absolutely. It's Hideo Kojima at its full height of messing with your UI television set, sort of, because people forget with stuff like that and both the Psycho Mantis sequence, everybody had that green bar as their volume sort of UI graphic. So they were able to like assume that of the player and of their TVs and mess around with it. But no, it literally leaves him naked without a safety net, literally, and
oh, you are naked
physically as
naked
well
at that point.
Yeah, you get to see the smooth buttocks of Raiden himself, Jack. But no, and I feel like it's a sequence that only gets more terrifying the older you get as well, because coupled with that, everything you think you know changing, you've also got the breakdown of Jack's relationship with Rose potentially going on as well, happening all around this. And then, yeah, it's just it's more unsettling than I would say outright scary, but that almost affects you on a deeper level. And the fact that Kojima was doing this 20 years ago in a PS2 game, flipping and subverting your expectations to that degree is really impressive. So no, I applaud you for including it here because it's definitely really scary.
All right, Aaron, take us home. What is your last favorite scary moment?
So obviously we can't not do this video and not discuss Resident Evil, which has been, full of so many scary moments and responsible for so many nightmares. I could talk about the very first time I played the original version of Resident Evil at my aunt's house as a kid with my big cousin Ben, playing it on the sofa next to me, and even just getting to the title screen, seeing the zombie appear, and it just scaring the living daylights out of me. But now I'm going to jump many decades into the future, talk about Resident Evil 7. The opening hours of that game is an absolute horror masterclass. I think overall I prefer Resident Evil Village, which obviously came out this year, which is also filled with a particular baby-related sequence that puts everyone on edge.
No.
So in lieu of that, I've gone for Resident Evil 7. You're in the Baker house. All is not well. You're venturing down into the basement. When who do we see climbing up the stairs? Is that Samara from The Ring? Is it that girl in need of a shower from The Grudge? No, it isn't. It is, in fact, the girlfriend you've come to rescue. Mia,
Oh, that scene.
just having the absolute worst of hangovers, bashing her head against the wall, pinning you to a wall, trying to stab you through the hand. So yeah, we don't have to spend too long talking about it, but definitely that scene alone is why I will never play this game in VR. 100%.
Yeah. Just a real strong case for what that game was trying to achieve too, right? If this is full, visceral, in-your-face, classic jump scare horror. Ugh. Awful. Just, nothing scarier than your own wife. That's a nice boomer joke for you. So my final one is also Resident Evil, Aaron.
Nice.
And it is one specific room from the original release of Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1. There is a section when you're in the Raccoon City Police Department and you're running down one corridor. And this corridor has a load of windows that have been boarded up, presumably by the police station staff before the zombies overran the complex. And as you run down, the arms of the zombies who are crowding the outside of this one corridor reach through the slats and try and grab you.
Oh.
And you've got to try and avoid these arms as you run up and down. Now, nowadays, you play the original Resident Evil 2, it's very quaint and nice, and it's very, chunky. But when I was a child playing this game for the first time, way too young to be playing Resident Evil 2, there was something about that one room that really just stuck with me. I don't know whether it was because it was highlighting the absolute hopelessness of the situation. Maybe I just find arms scary. I'm not sure. I was very young. It's hard to try and pull apart those feelings. But yeah, just as a visual image, I thought it was so affecting. I was actually disappointed that they didn't put that room into the remake, because I think it was such an iconic visual. But maybe that was just me and how it affected me as a kid. But yeah, I don't know. That room, I think about it all the time. Whenever I'm playing any Resident Evil game, is it being one of the defining moments of the series for me.
Wow, that's interesting, because as you well know, as we've discussed off air, I've not been fortunate to play the original version of Resident Evil 2, despite my best efforts, because when Resident Evil 3, the remake of that, came out recently, I went and played the original Resident Evil 3 on my Vita, but the Resident Evil 2 original PS1 version, nowhere to be seen on the EU storefront, so I'd have to reformat my Vita, and it just ain't happening. But no, from what little I know about that game, definitely scary stuff for the time, man. And I just want to say, before we get roasted in the comments, dogs jumping through the windows in the original Resident Evil, we get it, guys. It's been said. It's been done. It's scary. Dogs aren't that scary, okay? Well, poodles are more scary than Dobermans. Come on now.
It's a good point. That is such like a cliche choice. I didn't even think of including it in this.
That's why I like arms better than dogs. Okay, Liam, I like your choice better than the Resident Evil one. Less cliche.
Hashtag arms, not dogs. So I'm going to end this video, Aaron, with a list of some personal honorable mentions, because I'm editing this. So I'm just going to basically...
And you want to give me nightmares, don't you? That's what it is. You're like, what images can I leave Aaron with that will, creep him out forever?
Tell you what, when I run through these, I want you to give me a scariness score out of 5 as to how scary you find these.
Okay.
So I want you to either give a 1 of doesn't bother you at all, not scared whatsoever, and a 5 as you're going to have to sleep with a little nightlight on tonight. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's rate these. Okay, so first of all, we've got Oven Man from Resident Evil 4. Do you remember Oven Man?
Oven Man, I think I do. Is that one of the ones that won't die and you have to trap him in the oven? Or have I completely got it wrong?
No, it's one section in the island part of Resident Evil 4 where you walk in a room and a guy bursts out of an oven on fire and dies immediately.
Okay, I'll give that a 6, because that no doubt would have shocked me. Catch me off guard.
A 6?
Yeah, but he's hardly a dribbly woman. Dribbly woman is an 11.
Yeah, dribbly woman, not as good. So, I hate that phrase. Psycho Mantis reading your memory card in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go a solid 8 with that, because
scary.
Reading your memory card, being able to, find out what games you've been playing, what other Konami games, frightening stuff.
Is it... Okay, side note, and not really PlayStation related, but I'll mention it anyway. Is it scarier when he mentions PlayStation games, or when he knows you've played Super Mario Sunshine and the GameCube remake?
I've not experienced that, I'll be totally honest, but that is quite haunting.
Twin Snakes. We'll talk about that off air. The opening level in Time Splitters 2 with a zombie, that was so scary, I took it back to Sainsbury's 2 days after buying it on GameCube, and then 3 weeks later I was in a Blockbuster and I went to buy it again on PlayStation 2, and I said, Mom, I want to buy this game again, and my mom went, didn't you already buy this and make me take it back to Asda or Sainsbury's or whatever? And the cashier was like, why did your son have this? He's like 11. And then 2 weeks later, I bought it again, and it ended up being my favourite game. What would you give that experience out of 10?
Well, as you well know, Time Splitters Future Perfect, the third game, one of my favourite games of all time. So on that basis alone, and there's a pretty good duo of zombie levels in that, to be honest, where you've got like a deer
Really
head
good,
that comes ramming at you from the wall. I'll give that
Really scary.
I'll give that a solid 7. Time Splitters 2. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not too bad. Okay.
If it was enough to make you take it back to the shop, Liam, come on, it must have been scary.
I was a very sensitive child. In Deadly Premonition, there are enemies that bend over backwards and stick their entire arm down your throat, and I find them just really unsettling. Have you played Deadly Premonition?
I've not been privy to the joys of Deadly Premonition, unfortunately, but I'll take your word for it.
Very scary. What would you give that image in your head that I've conjured for you?
I'd probably give that a 9, not even having seen it, but I will when this video goes live, yeah.
I played a level in Dreams the other week that said it was going to be a Sonic game, but it was just a bunch of people screaming as a voice clip, and then the game ended. What would you give that?
I mean, that's Sonic, kind of, in a way. Like, it's just like, a flurry of nightmarish sounds. I'm going to give that a 9 just for, inventive genius alone.
It gave me a fight or flight response, actually. I don't like jump scares, and that was probably one of the scariest things I've ever played. So thank you, Dreams. That was fun.
Nice one.
A serious one now, the Scarecrow sections in Batman Arkham Asylum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were pretty... Oh, where you're in the morgue and he kind of jumps out at you? Yeah, that was pretty scary. Yeah, I'll give that an 8 on the Richter scale.
And finally, screenshots, not the game, I've never played the game, screenshots of Muppet Monster Adventure on PlayStation 1 that I saw in the pages of official PlayStation magazine in the late 1990s that gave me nightmares for about a week.
Okay, you're going to have to keep vamping here because I'm looking up Muppet Monster Adventures on the PS1. Whoa, is that meant to be Kermit? Kermit is like
No, I think
Frankenstein.
I think it's his nephew.
Right, yeah, he's seen better days, hasn't he? Oh my god, this is like a croc game with a Halloween Muppets theme. Okay, I'm giving that a 10 just for vampiric Fozzie Bear alone. Unsettling stuff.
Like I said, I was a sensitive child.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, that brings us to the end of this spooktastic adventure.
What have
How
you done
are you
to
feeling?
me?
Are you feeling thoroughly scared?
I can safely say that I'm now prepped for October 30th, this October. You definitely put me on edge. More so than Alan Wake going through the town of Bright Falls. Having recently played that game, getting in the mood of things.
I genuinely think your Alan Wake impression is spot on.
We need to do
I know I've said
something
this
with
to you
it.
off air.
We need to do it on the
do.
channel, maybe. I don't know. Look out for that on the channel with Halloween
We're
themed
going to do an
stuff.
entire video about Alan Wake just to get you to do your impression on a video.
I need to buy like a hoodie with some elbow patches and I need to start growing out my hair.
I think he wears 4 layers, I think, in that game.
He is, doesn't he?
At all times.
He's like constantly...
a shirt and 3 hoodies. Yeah.
Just so he's got a selection of which ones to wear. What humidity is it out there? Hoodie number 2, please.
That's the scariest moment in all of PlayStation, is Alan Wake's fashion choices. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel for everything PlayStation. And if you'd like to tell us your favourite scary moments from PlayStation, get in those comments, leave a reply. We will read them. We'll respond to our favourites. So let us know what your scary moments are. Aaron, anything you'd like to say before we wrap up this spooktastic video?
I just want to say I've got to go back into the walls right now. I'll see you next year.
He's a ghost, and I'm made of bones. Bye.
Bye.